Hi, Eric. Hi, Eric. I can't hear you. Hi, this is Mike. You don't have the code. Okay, let me give it to you. Are you ready for okay, the code is 474-11110-071 #. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Monica. See you soon. Bye. Bye.
Good. Can you hear me now?
Hi, Eric. How are you?
Okay.
I can hear you perfectly.
Yes,
Thank
so
you.
was
I
I.
was
I
worried
was
there
like,
for.
wait a minute. Why can you not hear me?
How's your day
So
going?
far, so good.
Oh, that's
How about
good.
yourself?
It's going well. Diamondbacks.
Yes.
Yeah, huh? Thank you for joining us today, Eric.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I think I missed the last meeting, which was very disappointing to me, but
Hi, Melissa.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good. I heard you're not feeling well. I'm sorry to hear
Ugh.
that.
No, thank you. I have been down since last Friday. I have a client who started a job in a preschool. And of course, all the kids are sick. You have young grandchildren. And I
Yes.
got, yeah, really sick. Came down with it last Friday. My fever's gone, but it's just turned into this really bad chest congestion thing. I've got a telemed call tomorrow with my doctor because I'm on good cough meds right now. I can't kick the cough. I'm having to do breathing treatments because it's made my asthma really mad. So I'm like, I'm tired and I can't work and see my clients in person. So I'm like, don't get this. It's wicked.
Tell him you want an antibiotic.
Well, he may, excuse me, pardon me. He may. So
Yeah.
that would be a super good thing if he prescribes something. So, yeah, I'm not having a good time. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Doing well.
You're well? Good.
Yeah.
I'm happy. Eric, how are you? Like in general, you doing good?
Mostly, yeah. I'm doing well. Tax preparer, so I'm in the middle of it right now.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah. I didn't know that's what you did. So you're super busy
yes,
right now, aren't you?
yep.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I filed a little late, so I'll hear at some point from my tax guy. I'm like, that's my fault. So
It happens to all of us. Nothing happens until April 1st, and then people remember. Oh wait, tax day is in 2 weeks.
yeah, I think I went in like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. I don't usually wait that long, but you know, life happens. Hey JJ,
Exactly.
how you're busy.
Hi, JJ. Hi, Nathan.
Stay out there.
Hi Nathan. How you guys doing? I know Kristen also confirmed she'd be here today. Pardon me, letting the dog out.
And Monica just called and she'll be joining us by telephone.
Okay, great, because I know she confirmed as well. So I think it's only one other person on our list, our ADE rep.
The ADE person hasn't been identified yet, or assigned rather.
Okay, is it DES? I was looking at the meeting invitation. That's why I was a little confused because it's a new name on there. On our meeting invite.
Was it Natalie, maybe?
Perhaps, hang on, I'll tell you.
Natalie Guzman.
Actually, it's Shauna Holton.
Oh, Shauna Cole. I'm sorry. Shauna is Kristen's scheduler.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
I always
Yeah,
include
Kristen's assistant.
Shauna when I reach out to Kristen to make sure that I can get her attention.
Thank you. I'm like, I know that
Where's
name sounds
Kristen?
familiar. Well, and I apologize. Like you guys that came on late, I've got a nasty virus and it's zapping oxygen from not just my lungs, but my brain. So most apologies for being stupid. So let's give Monica just a minute to show up and then we'll get started. Okay, just give her one more minute.
We had Kristen for a second.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw that. Hopefully she'll be back soon. Hey, John. I know he's busy.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm all right.
Glad to hear it. Are you still out of town?
Oh no, I'm back.
Well, welcome home.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Hmm.
Okay.
I wonder what happened. There she is. Hi,
There's
Kristen.
Kristen. Well, all right.
I
We're
think
going to
we
go
can-
ahead and get started. Yeah, Monica will join us when she can. So hi, everybody. Welcome and thank you for taking the time to join us this afternoon for our Meaningful Careers Committee. I'm going to call our meeting to order at 1:04 p.m. No problem, Kristen. We've all had those tech challenges. Thank you. Okay. Mike, would you like to do roll call?
Sure. Melissa Van Hook.
I am present. I'm your chair.
Present.
Kristen
thank you.
Mackey. Thank you, Kristen. Eric Jensen. Eric's here. I'm answering for you, Eric. JJ Rico
Here.
and Nathan Pullen.
I'm here.
Nathan, thank you, Nathan. And then staff, Don Myers. Don is here.
I am here.
Thank you, John. And me, Mike Leba. Okay. Monica Cooper said she was going to call in, so hopefully she'll be able to join us. Melissa.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully she'll be here soon. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to agenda item B, a review of the December 12th, excuse me, 2003 meeting minutes for Meaningful Careers. I hope you have all had an opportunity to review those minutes. Okay, are there any comments or corrections that need to be made? Okay. Hearing none, I'm going to call for a motion to approve the Meaningful Career Committee minutes for December 12th, 2003. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. This is JJ.
Thank you, JJ. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Eric. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Okay. Anyone opposed? Please say nay. All right. Anyone not voting? Thank you. Motion carries. Okay. Moving on to agenda item C, our update of the federal fiscal year 2024 Meaningful Careers activities with Michael.
Okay, thank you, Melissa.
Of course.
So for fiscal year 2024, which began October 1st, 2023, and will end September 30th, 2024, Meaningful Careers has 14 activities. So I'm going to report on some of the activities and just give you an update on where we are. We're really we're second quarter. We just finished the second quarter of the year. So we have half a year to go and we have a lot of things to accomplish. One of the activities was to create and disseminate a minimum of 2 plain language, easy to read information resource materials. This will complement what was created before. We created the apprenticeship, career and technical education, transition planning, self-employment. So we're going to create a resource material similar to that. And yes, Melissa.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think you meant we just finished the first quarter, right? Did we? Oh, federal fiscal year.
Yes.
Okay. Again, I told you I have no oxygen in my brain. Might cough. Sorry. Okay. Carry on.
No, gosh,
Just
it was just the first quarter. Then that'd give me 3 more months. So
No, it's all right. I'm not feeling good today, guys.
That's
Okay.
okay.
Federal fiscal. All right. Sorry. I'll be quiet.
that's fine. I love the questions. So please ask questions. One item that we are contemplating is enhancing career exploration. And so that's one item that we'll hope to get accomplished or completed this year. I'm going to jump around a little bit because some of these things are a little bit out of order. But another item was to meet with transition specialists, raising special kids, schools, and look at what resources are missing for families as they prepare transition. So I reached out to Martin Apel, who is with the Mesa School District. He comes highly recognized, and a lot of people say he does really good work out in the East Valley. And so I'm going to meet with him in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to ask him, I'm going to show him the resource materials that we created, and then ask him, what do you think parents need? What do transition specialists need? And so hopefully from that information I get from him, we'll create these additional resource materials. And ultimate goal is to create a toolkit for families that we can share at transition fairs. I also reached out to Raising Special Kids, and so I'm waiting to hear back from them on what their ideas are. And of course, once we get their ideas, we'll take them into consideration, and then we'll create that resource. Second item on the work plan are the two reports that we had prepared last year. The report prepared by the Center for the Future of Arizona, Communities at the Center, and the Institute for Community Inclusion, looking at VR services and programs. We did receive their final reports, and so at our last meeting in December, the committee made a recommendation that those reports should be shared with agency leaders and ask the agency leaders to identify staff that can work with the council and work on an action plan to help with implementation. So those reports were sent to Superintendent Tom Horn, DES Director Angie Rogers, and who oversees VR and Division of Developmental Disabilities, and to JC Farkas at the Sonoran Center for Excellence in Disabilities, since they oversee Employment First. So we've given them a month to read those reports and then to identify staff that can work with them, and then I'll follow up with the staff, and then we'll begin that process of working on an action plan. Another activity is the council will support 2 policy initiatives to support students with IDD to achieve success in post-secondary education. We have contracted with Carla Kravickas from Think Inclusion, and Carla Kravickas has been helping the council with some projects. And Carla prepared 2 policy briefs, one on dual enrollment and the other on college-based transition services. Those policy briefs, along with the media release, are going to be released this week. And so I'll be forwarding those to you. And we have I spoke to Sarah Roof, who is our communications director. He has a targeted campaign to reach out to the media, to individuals like Amy Silverman, the person at Capital Times who does a lot of coverage for disability issues, and to share those briefs with them. Yes, Kristen.
Thank you. I was writing notes. You said dual enrollment, and what was the second one?
College-based transition services.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Were these so they haven't been released yet, but we did do quite a bit of connections with Carla through the legislative process. Or did these inform any of the legislative activities that she was involved in?
Yes.
Do you know? Okay.
They
All right.
did.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Another project was to collaborate with the Arizona APSE chapter to create a pilot plan that uses evidence-based national standards of practice and requires providers to demonstrate a basic level of competency in providing services for employment of persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Originally, I was going to propose that I share information on customized employment with service providers, but after having conversations with Stephanie Johnson, she thought that maybe that wasn't a good idea. And so what I did is I looked at some other activities that are being conducted in other states. And the Colorado Office of Employment First, for example, they have a survey that is going out to employment service providers, to their APSE members, to look at accreditation. So ACRE programs, for example, the CESP programs, to see if individuals who have obtained those certificates have gone through the training, applying those practices if it has resulted in employment outcomes. And so I thought that that was a better approach to take. Hopefully, Christian, you're in support of that.
Yeah, I'd
Yes.
also be interested to know, because in the past, what we've heard is if our staff are not getting paid for the time they're being spent, we're losing money. And so that's been a challenge for us, is that, you know, if we say, in order to be a provider for us, we want your job developers to demonstrate some level of competence at whatever level that is. But then providers have to shell the money for the certificate and for the time, or the developer does it on their own time, right? So that historically has been a big like roadblock for many of the VR providers. So, which is why we've not ever required a minimum level of competency. You may have heard from Stephanie that we're also working with right now as we're embarking on our customized employment pilot project, that we are working with JC and Lori Sandonay, who is the chair of the APSI in Arizona, in developing a baseline training that would be for all VR staff and would be all for our job developers as well. So if you were to come in for this customized employment contract, then you would be expected to have your staff within 6 months of, you know, signing the contract, would be expected to have people take this basic level of competence, or demonstrate either the CESP or the ACRE, right? So we don't want to say be mutually exclusive for any one of them. We know that there's varying levels of skills and expertise for both of those, but trying to make sure that we don't inadvertently narrow our vendor pool even smaller, because we're now requiring this extra step that people can't afford to do. So that's one of the challenges that we're taking a look at.
Good. Well, I'm really glad I had that conversation with
Yeah.
Stephanie. It was very helpful.
Great.
And so, as I said, I reached out to the Colorado Office of Employment First, and I haven't had the meeting yet with their executive director, but she was very gracious when I asked if we could borrow their, their strategy. And I thought she's going to say, "Who is this guy?" You know, that's a pretty bold ask. I may not even get a response from her, but she was very gracious. And she said, "Yes, I would love to have a discussion with you and see how we can support what you're doing there in Arizona." So that really made me happy to get that kind of response, because it makes my job much easier as well.
Yeah. Stephanie and Lori met with Colorado also to kind of go through their whole, what did you do? How did you launch it? What worked? What didn't work? And Colorado's been very gracious in sharing information. And the term is leverage, Michael.
Okay.
We leverage information.
Yeah. I'll highlight that in the meeting notes. Thank you, Kristen.
Yeah.
Okay. Another activity is convene a roundtable to share recommendations with education leaders around expanding Arizona pathways to post-secondary education for students with IDD, and develop an action plan based on those discussions. This is a project that Carla Kravickas has helped us with. We have established the Arizona Think College initiative, and I'm happy to report that we have participation and support from the University of Arizona Project Search, Northern Arizona University supporting inclusive practices in colleges, Grand Canyon University, their LOCS program, and ASU, and I'm sorry I don't recall the name of the program at ASU, but Adero Allison, who is really developing that program, is
calling
part of this committee. So we had a
Sales?
meeting.
Is it their sales?
I'm sorry?
Isn't that the name of that program?
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but
Either way.
but anyway, we have Adero Allison and Chad Parker from ASU who have been at the meetings. We've had 2 meetings. at the Helios Foundation. And by the way, if you haven't visited the Helios Foundation, what an incredible facility they have. But they have also been gracious. They've allowed us to use their facility for our meetings. We had one last fiscal year, and we just had one on February the 9th. So I'll continue to report on the outcomes from that initiative. Carla has also submitted a proposal to the Arizona Department of Education IDEA conference for a session, and so my understanding that session has been approved. So we'll be sharing that information at that conference. Another activity is to partner with the Sonoran USAID and agencies to support the organizational structure of Employment First. I'm really proud to report that Employment First is back. We have a new person that is leading those efforts. Her name is Heather Dietrich, and she's doing a phenomenal job. In addition to coordinating Employment First, she's also overseeing the Project Search program, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. But we've had several meetings. We just had a meeting last week, and we have work groups that have been created. I and Stephanie are working on a group, community engagement, and we have activities and goals that we're going to work on. We already have 5 people that are meeting with us, and we're going to be meeting on a monthly basis. And then at the quarterly meetings, we'll report out. So the good thing is that we're back together. We have some new people that have joined. Cynthia Ross, for example, from Arizona Blue Cross Blue Shield. Jay Johnson, a lot of you know Jay Johnson. Corey Montaño from Southern Arizona. I believe she oversees special education, but I mean, it's people like that that are sitting with us at the table. So I'm real happy about that. Another activity is to support National Disability Employment Awareness Month. That takes place every October. So we're going to start to gear up for that. An activity that is included in the work plan is to conduct a virtual employer forum. And so Carla and I met with Tim Stump and with Heather Dietrich. And so that's our little planning committee, and we're going to plan this event. Originally, I was going to suggest that we have it in either July or August, but the suggestion was made that we have it during National Disability Awareness Month, which makes perfect sense. So we'll be doing all the planning, the preparation, the coordination, and then we'll have that activity during the month of October. Another activity is to collaborate with DB 101 and Achieving a Better Life Experience, ABLE programs, to produce and disseminate information that addresses misconceptions about reduction in benefits for working adults with IDD. Brittany Chitley is the director of the ABLE program. We're helping her coordinate sessions at schools. And so I'm going to also ask Ivan Rivera from Ability 360, who is really working with VR on DB 101. So he'll be joining Brittany to make those presentations. And we'll be doing them in the Phoenix metro area as well as Tucson. The last one I want to report on is a new webinar series that we are going to launch in May. And so the series, and let me see, I included it in the packet. Okay. Okay, so let me see if I can make this bigger. Can you see that? A little bit? Okay, so the new webinar series is going to be called Creating a Life Full of Possibilities. It's going to launch in May. Sorry, my phone keeps ringing here. It's going to launch in May. We are going to have 5 sessions. We're going to have them the second week of each month from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Wednesdays. And so the sessions are going to include person-centered planning, the steps to your future, alternatives to guardianship, supported decision-making, Think College Arizona, expanding opportunities for inclusive higher education, project search and work programs, and utilizing technology for employment. So we've secured the speakers. Kristen has been very gracious. She said that VR would help us with moderating the sessions. So we had a meeting last week with our DD network partners. Thanks to VR, to Kristen, and to JJ Rico, I'm sorry, JJ, I'm going to screw up the name of your organization now. It's used to be Arizona Center for Disability Law. It's Arizona,
Dis-
help me, JJ.
Disability rights are.
Disability Rights Arizona.
So Natalie is going to help moderate one of the sessions. So this is a great example of the collaboration that the council has established with our DD network partners. And so they're going to help us again with moderating the sessions, making sure that the announcement gets shared through the respective listservs and help build the audience and participation. Last year, it was 2 years ago that we had one called Creating a Successful Path, and that series was very successful. I wish we had more people attend, but we averaged between 40 and 46 people at each session. So that's a good number, but our goal this year is to increase those numbers. So thank you, Kristen. Thank you, JJ. Nathan indirectly, IHD is also helping out. And of course, the Sonoran Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, they are also helping us with this series. So I greatly appreciate that help that I've been receiving, that we've been receiving. Are there any questions about any of these activities? No? Okay. So Melissa, I guess we can go on to the second item, the third item on the agenda.
Sorry, Mike. Yes, we can. Thank you for sharing that. That's a lot. That's a lot going on. Okay. Next is agenda item D, suggestions for federal fiscal year 2025 for meaningful careers activities.
Okay.
All right, Mike.
All right. So just there's no particular order, but one of the ideas or suggestions I had for fiscal 25 funding is to look at explore providing funds to Project Search. Project Search is a program for youth and young adults with intellectual or developmental disabilities. It includes a 1-year internship with 3 different rotations, and it teaches competitive, marketable, and transferable skills. Right now, they have 6 sites in Arizona. There are 4 Arizona high school transition model sites and 2 Arizona young adult model sites. And the really good outcome from the Project Search program is that 71% of interns who have graduated from Project Search Arizona have obtained competitive integrated employment. I think that's a great percentage. And the council did fund a Project Search site 10 years ago. It was at Medtronic. And at that time, at the end of the program, at the end of the rotations, unfortunately, there were no placements. But fast forward to 2024, now with these 6 sites, Project Search is really seeing some good outcomes. So I asked Heather Dietrich if the council were to, explore partnering with the Sonoran Center, what could we do? And she said, well, what are you thinking about doing? I said, well, maybe the council could provide funding for the licensing, because the licensing for Project Search Site is now $18,000. And sometimes that amount it can be difficult to obtain. So I thought that maybe the council could provide the $18,000 licensing fee, and that licensing fee helps with, it provides technical assistance. It helps ensure that all of the materials that are provided are generated through Project Search National. And, it helps with the program. So I asked Heather, are there any sites that are outside of Phoenix and Tucson Metro? And she said, no, not really. I said, what if we were to look at a site up on the Navajo Indian Reservation? Window Rock, for example, is the area where there's more infrastructure. There are hospitals there, and Project Search has really been successful in hospital settings. So I made the suggestion that perhaps the council could look at providing the licensing fee, provide that funding for that, and that way the Navajo Nation or those participants wouldn't have to come up with that amount. So she thought that was a great idea. She took it back to JC, and JC loved the idea. So I wanted to share that with the committee members to see what your thoughts are on that. Before you start to say anything, I also asked her to look at, and this is kind of preliminary, but the semiconductor plant that's being built up on I-17, that huge Taiwan semiconductor plant, I think that would be a perfect setting for a Project Search site. And so I asked Heather if she could explore looking at creating a site there. And I don't know what school district that would be in. I think maybe because of its location, it might be the Deer Valley School District, or it may even be the Peoria School District. But I think both those school districts have progressive leadership, and I think that they would support the Project Search site. So are there any questions or comments?
Should we, from a VR perspective, we typically support the Project Search site, so I'm fine if somebody else wants to do that. That's okay too. And then we support Heather in managing all of that on our behalf through the Sonoran USED. So we pay for part of that salary to help us managing kind of all of the requirements that go along with Project Search. My question on the Navajo Nation one, or I guess for either any of them, would it be a requirement that they would be a VR client to participate, either 121 or state VR? Because then that's how then the ongoing costs would be paid,
I would say yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense. I was my brain was running through what our current population looks like and whether you'd have enough participants to support the model. But if you get down closer to approval, we could definitely look and see what our population numbers look like in there. And it certainly doesn't prohibit going out and doing extra marketing to see if people could come in. But we'd want to make sure that if we're bringing in brand new clients, that we build in enough of a timeline ramp, because we'd have to get through eligibility and IPE development before we would be able to start paying for that Project Search cost. So just something to consider in terms of timelines.
Yeah, it does take a considerable amount of time up front to start the program. So definitely. But our fiscal year begins October 1st. So we've got 6 months to consider this.
And then with the Taiwan semiconductor, I believe Peoria does a fair amount of like job. I just want to make sure we're not stepping on toes with the school district, right? If they are already working with Taiwan Semiconductor, I would want to make sure that we're not pulling opportunities away from students in the school. But I think there's probably plenty of opportunities for everybody to explore as long as we're not trying to get the same students involved in the
Right.
same activities.
Yeah, Heather would have to do, you'd have to do some research. You'd have to make calls. You'd have to find out, what is going on in those different school districts and see if there's interest. Of course, there has to be that interest and support.
And we have our TSW programs with Peoria also. So, I mean, we have the knowledge of what's actually happening in the school district with Peoria. So Heather can connect with Tracy here on my team, and they're already connecting with our existing project search opportunities. So that can help in some of the research part there.
Okay. Thank you, Kristen.
Mhm.
Any other comments about Project Search, the idea of exploring partnering with them?
Well, you and I discussed that a little bit. You know, Mike, I'm really supportive of that. I just want to share it with the committee. And so anything we can do to kind of explore that and make that happen. And Kristen, I'm so grateful for your presence on this committee because that helps a lot with all that, any questions we have and rules we need to follow. So does anybody else have any thoughts on that? Okay, crickets today. Right, Mike?
Okay. The second item I wanted to share is North Carolina Council on Developmental Disabilities. And I hope John doesn't get mad at me for saying this, but I see them as in addition to ADDPC, a real leader in disability planning councils. And I look to them for a lot of their programming. They developed a series of webinars a couple of years ago. And the webinars were moderated, facilitated by a gentleman. His name is Alan Bergman. And Alan Bergman is a nationally recognized individual. Gosh, I was looking at his bio, and Alan has provided more than 200 keynote addresses and 150 workshops to over 50,000 individuals in all 50 states, including Canada, Australia, and Israel. And Alan is at ease with multiple audiences, including customers, volunteers, legislators, legislative staff, clinical researchers, and practitioners. He's a nationally recognized trainer, and he has provided leadership training to over 6,000 people. Make a long story short, Alan, again, coordinated the webinar series for the North Carolina Council. And they were 2 hours in length, 2.5 hours in length. They had 10 of them. And what Alan was able to bring to the table is that he was able to bring in national speakers to present. And so a suggestion that I was going to make to the committee is that we ramp up our webinar series. I'm very grateful for our local partners, our presenters. Whenever the council has made the ask, everyone has said, yes, what can I do to support you? How can I help? And so that has been great, as evidenced by the one that we have coming up in May. But it would be nice to, so to speak, to ramp it up and to have a professional series of webinars. And so I wanted to see if the committee would be supportive of exploring working with Alan, contacting him. When he had the series, it was really focused on customized employment. I'm not going to make that suggestion. I'm going to make the focus on competitive integrated employment, and maybe customized employment be part of it, but not the lead in for everything. And so I was able to meet with the North Carolina director, Tally Wells, and I asked him, how much did your program cost? And I was really surprised. He said it was $25,000, and $12,000 went to Alan for organizing, moderating the series, and then the 12,000, the remaining amount was paid to the presenters for these national speakers. And then there was also a match that was included. So for about $25,000, and I'm assuming Alan's interested. I made that assumption. I'm sure he would be, but to explore reaching out to Alan to see if he could develop a series for us. Are there any thoughts or comments
Well,
about
you
that?
know I love it. So definitely thumbs up from Eric. Guys, do we have any comments?
So this is JJ. So first question was going to be how much money, right? And then so you answered that question, which 25,000 is not a lot of money. And then kind of staff level involvement. I know y'all are a small but mighty staff. Obviously, contracting with Alan sounds like he might take a lot of the lead, but just kind of then thinking, is that on Sarah, to kind of host or do some of these other things? So I just want to, I know that's a John and you discussion of if you have the bandwidth, but that's just always the second thought of, do you all have the staff, even if Alan's kind of orchestrating or doing a large portion of that? And then again, I don't know, Alan, if you wouldn't mind sending kind of email. I started clicking around on their website, looking to see what you're speaking of. I'm always, want to keep it local, but if Alan is the expert nationwide, and then maybe his speakers are nationwide, but also Arizona focused, because we do have differences, right? North Carolina is different than us.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
I respect our peer agency over there at RPNA. We're kind of, what was the term, Kristen? We're doing kind of replicating their website or whatever the
Leveraging. You're leveraging.
their
Yeah.
website to be similar to ours, which you all will see in a couple months. But so I do have a lot of respect for what comes out of North Carolina. I just want to do a little research just to see, if he's going to meet the needs of our state, because our state is different than other states. So, but I generally think it's a great idea. I mean, that's how people access information now. Webinars and others will get a larger audience for those who have access to the web. So yeah, generally my support's there. Those are my comments of, thoughts of staffing involvement and whether you have that resource. And then just want to kind of click around on Alan's stuff so I can see what you're saying. I'm sure it's true, but just kind of click and see how he is on screen.
Thank you, JJ. So in answer to your question, it's $25,000. That was the contract that NCCDD had with them. It may be more, and that was a couple of years ago. It was during COVID. But the staff would support, so it would be Jason, Sarah, and myself. We would use our platform for the webinars to host the webinars. But Alan would help create the graphics, and I would make sure that it does have it's Arizona centric. So there's a focus on Arizona programs, policies, etc. And I guess I need to mention this too, because this may be the difficult portion of it, and that is, if we were able to select Alan, we would have to do a sole source contract. So I know that's probably going to give Marcy a little bit of anxiety, but I think Alan, I think we could, I could justify Alan being that person. And John, I don't know if you want to say anything about sole source contract or not.
Yeah, I don't think it's an issue. Marcy may have some initial objections, but there's nobody quite like Alan. So I don't think we're going to get too much pushback either from her or from the state. So I'm comfortable with that.
And you know me, I'm not afraid to ask. I asked Tally for a copy of the contract that he used to secure Alan, so I have it. So we could use that same language.
It was nice not to have to reinvent that. Again, leveraging the information,
Yes,
not
leveraging the information.
It's all good. I like the Arizona centric on Arizona policies and, kind of where we are. I also feel like having national or, bigger speakers come in and say, this is what it is, and this is what other places have done, because we are kind of behind in terms of moving in that direction, to maybe spur folks to think that, just those of us in the advocacy and the disability employment world are just crazy for what we want people to do and think about. Now it's, this is bigger than just Arizona needing to do better and think about it. So I think it might be a nice opportunity in that regard.
Thank you, Kristen.
Mhm.
And thank you, JJ.
Yeah. Clicking around while you were talking, I found the link searching their website. So it does look like a good series that he did back in 2021. I think it was the year. So,
Yes, yes. Thank you, JJ.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so I'll explore that and I'll reach out to Alan and report back to the committee on my findings. The last thing I wanted to share with you is the Center for the Future of Arizona. They completed the Communities at the Center report. And so Melissa and I had a conversation, and we liked what CFA produced. We'd like to continue the relationship with CFA. And so I asked them to prepare a high-level scope on how they would continue to support the council. And so on the website is just their quick scope. And essentially it focuses on sharing the results of the 2023 process and recommendations in order to prompt further dialogue and awareness. And I'm using CFA's language, of course, around issues impacting the transition of young people with disabilities into post-secondary education and career successes. They would engage parents and families to discuss the challenges in and opportunities for advancing equitable access and surface opportunities for action, and identify areas of opportunity where CFA, Arizona Town Hall, and ADDPC and others could partner to support these priorities, whether through additional data, engagement, or resources. So how they're proposing to do this is to have a series of community roundtables. And so they are proposing 3 to 5 community roundtables with a focus on parents and families and a focus on geographic diversity of perspective, which includes rural, urban, and suburban communities, and facilitate polling and post-conversation surveys that deepen the understanding of the concerns, priorities, and opportunities for action that emerge from these conversations. And then they would develop one page infographics or briefs on the issues that were presented before, that had surfaced before, and how they would share that information. My suggestion to CFA is that the community roundtables, the majority of them be held in person, because I believe that you get a better response when you have people sitting around a table or in tables, a table setting, and you have a presenter there, and it just allows for the facilitation of information and able to receive feedback from the participants. And of course, to really focus on parents and family members to attend these community roundtables. So this is just a concept paper that they presented. I'd like to hear what your feedback is, and if you support the idea or not.
Well, before anybody says anything, I just wanted to state that, Mike and I had discussed this. When we first talked about this project from the very beginning, I had really envisioned more conversations with the community. I really, really wanted more families involved, people that are, doing this day to day, living it day to day. What the professionals have to say and the challenges they face is really important. and the information we kind of gain from this is important. But I really wanted the heart of this to be families and people that with disabilities are living this, and how do we reach those people, see what resources they need, and even families that have kind of are a little further down the road, what information would have been helpful had they had it sooner? What messaging would have been helpful had they had it, early on? So, it's kind of my hope that by having those conversations with more of the actual families in person, maybe we can kind of deepen that conversation and sort of expand this a little bit, just for awareness as well as resources for people. But and again, I'm not at my best today, but that's kind of my main thoughts on that. What do you guys think? Any thoughts?
I'm reading the results section of the outcomes, and is it tangible? I think is kind of my concern. Is it to bring folks together to hear kind of some of the information that we have typically heard, and then what comes from that, though? Like what? And I think that's the piece that I'm struggling with a little bit more is it really that much different than what we probably think it is, or that we've already gotten from people? And maybe we do need to refresh that, and get that additional information, but then how will we use that to move anything forward?
Well, it's a good point, Kristen. I think the hardest piece in all of this has always been getting to the families, right? Because it's pretty easy to get to the professionals. That's not so hard. The hardest part is always getting to the people that are living this day to day. And because I feel like we never have enough information from them, I always feel like that's the piece that's missing. It's not quite there. But I know that they're looking at a few different things in here. Mike, do you have any comments on that? And I hear you, Kristen. It's always the piece that I struggle with too. But I feel like it's the piece that's always missing.
Yeah. And to your point about not hearing from families, just knowing the struggle that we had with the ICI and, trying to get the number of people, and how long did we leave that open? And I think we still only got 35 people to share information. So that might be a challenge as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did ask about that because I said that we did want to focus, if we continue this project, that we do want more family engagement. And the conversations should be held in person, and they should be around the family's schedule. So we talked about what time of the day would be better to have that kind of meeting, and what's the maximum length of a session that we should have. An hour is too short. 75 minutes is not long enough. 2 hours maybe max. But we did talk about that. And then I did address the fact that it may be difficult to obtain family members to participate, but that's where we would have to rely on our network to try to create awareness about this project and to have them help us secure families to participate in the process.
Yeah.
And then even the issue of food came up, because I always believe, I think it's the Latin in me, that if you have people over, you need to feed them. So, and unfortunately, the council cannot provide for food or beverages. So I said, well, maybe I can find a sponsor that could provide the food and beverages. I had a very brief conversation with Natasha at First Place to see if maybe they could provide the food and beverages. I mean, those are minor things that we talked about, but the real crux, the real issue was that family engagement, and how do we get the folks literally at the table?
Well, and I think the best place to start with that, you mentioned our networks, but the places, typically the best ones are the big support groups that are doing things, whether it's through Autism Society. I don't know what Down syndrome is doing. I know the meetings I used to run, we had 80 people that came to every meeting. Like, it was not uncommon. There are a lot of groups out there that that meet on a regular basis in person. So that, that may be a start. And there's people that have that are coming in. Their kids are all ages, from newly diagnosed on up to older as well. There's a lot of those out there. And I think about some of the organizations that are doing things on an ongoing basis, Seeds of Arizona, Marianne LaRoche, all the families that she works with. And maybe it won't work, hijack an existing meeting. Exactly, Kristen. That's it. You invite people in. Obviously, you have to set it up ahead of time. But if you're going to a place where they're already meeting and they already have a large group of people, we used to bring in guest speakers all the time. We could get anybody we wanted to come in, but we had people come in and talk on anything and everything. VR came in and spoke. We had Dee Dee come in. Dr. Melmed would come in, and it was informational and helpful. And there were some great discussions and conversations. So it's
just it's one less thing that somebody has to plan. If they already have it and it's a consistent thing on their calendar and we can go and be there without having to schedule something additional, it's sometimes helpful.
Yeah.
We appreciate being asked to go to those because we know that folks they know what they come if they know that that's what they want to learn, but it is something that's already set up and kind of pre-designed, and people come wanting to learn more of that specific information or participate in that specific activity, but it isn't another thing for them.
Yeah, not one more thing to fit in their calendar.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good strategy. But listen, if there's a better way to approach this, if there's thoughts on, there's information that we need, or do we have all the information we need? Are we fishing for something that we don't need? I mean, and I'm, I don't have a giant ego, no issues. What do you guys think? Like, most of us are very familiar with this world. I think we all are. If it's not the thing to do, okay. It's so quiet today. So quiet. Okay, well, I'm not sure what to say. John, I'm going to pick on you. Do you have any thoughts on any of it?
Me?
You're on you. Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't know that I have anything more to add. Not at the moment. Anyway. No.
Okay. Because I know we've kind of been fishing in the same pond for a lot of the same information. Some of our stuff has overlapped, and I know that. And it just sort of reinforces the need. Like, the same issues keep coming up again and again and again. And maybe it's that we go after the solution, right? Like, we can't make all the agencies play well together. I mean, is it bringing them together to see if we can convene? We've talked about all those different things. How do we change the outcomes? And that's always the hardest part. And I feel like there's been so much focus on what all the different agencies need to do that play a part, but I don't feel like there's been a ton of focus on the families in a big way and getting to them early on, right? At the beginning, when that message that you get is always so bad and so negative. Like, how do we get to them sooner with the information that they need and change that kind of outcome and that thought of what that child can or can't do?
I think that is a different approach than what I'm reading here, and it might just be how I'm reading it, but I do like that, because we have talked about that is, it's all of those transition points throughout a child's life that the parents have to navigate. And so is there something that we could learn to put together and maybe, have that, the result then is kind of a trajectory of all of those transition points, and what can you expect at those transition points, and have somebody assist with that, the development of that, because that would be a kind of a tangible outcome that I don't think would be horribly awful to keep up to date from an external, entity, with all the different state entities that you're going to end up having to have as a piece of that pie. So that feels a little bit more tangible to me. And when we have in previous conversations have discussed just exactly that, Melissa. How do we get families thinking that their son or daughter can have the most opportunities, and not have that defeatist mentality when that's kind of all you get from a medical professional to start with. So that might be a different approach. And I don't know if CFA does that, but that could be something, maybe you gather families from those different age brackets. What do you wish you would have known, or right after they ended that age bracket, right? What would have been helpful for you to know before your child turned 3? What would have been helpful for you to know before your child went to school?
Yeah, I think so. And any conversations that CFA would do could help be with them, but what you're talking about, kind of what I'm getting at, is a little bit different than what's in here. And Mike, I hope you're not pulling out your hair hearing that.
No.
Yes, John.
One thing did just occur to me, and that is that, and I don't want to take this like on a total tangent, but it occurs to me that many times we are trying to educate families, parents, other caregivers, at the same time that we're also asking for their input. But where we might be missing the boat is, I think of the special education advocacy program that we're funding with Disability Rights Arizona. One of the key aspects of that program is turning parents and students into advocates for themselves, into advocates for what they're looking for. And I get the sense that sometimes in the meaningful careers work and in the employment work, we're trying to get people to take advantage of programs that exist. And we're trying to give them opportunities and so forth, but we're not necessarily turning them into advocates for themselves or advocates for the people they are caregivers for. And just because something doesn't exist doesn't mean that it can't someday exist. If something's missing from a family's life, if something's missing from their education experience or their employment experience, what's stopping them from asking for that, or from doing the work to bring that about? And again, I don't want to take this up on too much of a tangent, but so much of disability work is about advocacy and self-advocacy. Why isn't that a major component of what we're doing in the employment arena? Or if it is, how am I missing it?
No,
Yeah.
it's a really good point, Mike or John. It's a really, really good point. I think about working with my clients, and it's what I'm teaching them to do. Like, I'm trying to work myself out of a job. When I was working with families to advocate for them or in their school districts, I'm trying to teach everything so they don't need me, so they don't call me 27 more times. That's a good point. Yep, Eric, go right ahead.
We can't hear you, Eric.
Your audio is a little funny. You sound like Mickey Mouse a little bit, or too far away, unless it's just me.
Yeah. I could hear you earlier, Eric, but right now we can't hear you.
It's all messed up.
So I was just going to jump in and follow with John. I think, employment law was the area that I started at the center. And I think that's, to your point, Melissa, that's what we tried to do, right? Give them a toolbox that they can then use and then reference in the future, because a lot of these things are going to come up over and over, like accommodation requests. So just to hop on John's kind of point that, that's what we should do, right? I mean, that's what we do in other areas. And I just did presentations for Vail and Sunnyside School District down here, and kind of totally changed the script from just a lecture to kind of actually doing the interview and developing the tool that they could use, or some practical things. So I mean, it's again a little off of the initial question, but just wanted to kind of agree that we need to start doing that too. And it starts early. It should start early. There's no need that you can't start drafting those things or having those things even before your employment age, I guess you could say. But what is employment age, you know? But you could start that with different ways, different things in some of the things we do. So I apologize. I have to jump on another call here, but I think this committee's doing great things. Thank you, Michael, for your leadership, and Melissa, of course, and good seeing you on the screen, everyone. But just got to jump off on another call here.
You're
Thank
good,
you, JJ.
JJ. We
Appreciate
are
it.
going to have to wrap it up over
And
time.
Yeah.
Okay. All
I
right.
have
Well,
another meeting too, so yep, but
okay. Well, we'll get you going then. Mike, that's definitely something we're going to have to discuss and bring back to the committee and see what we want to do. All right. I would go to the next agenda item, call to the public. I don't see any public on here. So, and Mike, if you can hang on for a minute afterwards. All right, everybody, thank you for joining us today. Eric, I'm so sorry we weren't able to hear your comments, but please feel free to send them to Mike and I or to the committee as a whole. Okay, everybody, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much for joining us today. Bye,
Thank you,
guys.
everyone.
thank you. Feel better.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. I feel like death. I know. Eric. Are you still there? Well, do you mind sending me this recording so that I can watch it maybe over the weekend when I'm feeling better and can process a little better?
Sure. I'll do that.
Okay, we can stop recording if you want now.
Yeah. Let me.
Thanks. Do you have to get to another meeting right this
No,
minute?
I'm good. I'm good.